Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland, an Arsenal podcast. I'm Gunnar Gimley and tonight my guests are, first up, the hairy lady's favourite. It's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm all right. How's your week been?
I can sum my week up in 4 words. Echo, make a fart noise. There you go.
That's marvellous. You are such a child.
You're the one who told me to do it before we started.
He's gone, ladies and gentlemen. have you got anything more to say before we move on to our next guest?
Oh, the weather's killing me. Oh, if anybody out there owns a company that sells CBD oil, the non-psychoactive, obviously, then I need about a litre of it a day. Oh, I'm aching.
Try the psychoactive stuff. You'll be off your tits.
No, we don't encourage that on this podcast.
Yes,
if you watch that program on ITV, you'll see even John Fashion, he was very against it all, and he went, "Yeah, it's a miracle thing. Everybody should have it." But
he did compare cannabis to heroin, so probably not the best person to judge it.
But he did start crying at one point when he saw what it could do for people with fits. And I know one of my good mates, Bob, he has them, and he's 6'4". So when he goes, he goes. Everyone gets out of the way, and he has loads a day, and it's not good. And there's that poor girl on there. They said she's having 1,000 a day. They give her the CBD oil, and it's virtually none a day. There you go, people. That's what we need. So if you if you go and see your MP and tell them, sort it out.
The only thing Bergkamp has got to do with cannabis is the Dutch connection, obviously. So we'll move on there, Danny. Thank you. Next up, our man in Poland, it's Steve, Mr. Lord Hillwood. Hello, Steve.
Hi there, Jim. How you doing?
I'm not too bad. Hopefully you can pick this up after the dreadful start Danny's given us.
Oi.
Well, I've got the window closed, so it won't be interrupted by the Warsaw Fire Brigade as usual. As you know, there's always somebody who's having a pierogi fire in their flat in Warsaw, or a horrific road accident somewhere, so the guys have to come out all blues and twos blazing. And of course, I've got the regulation. Yes, it may be -3, but the lads downstairs are out playing five-a-side on the pitch down below. So, it's been a good week, though, isn't it?
What in general, or
just basically Arsenal managing to piss off the entire British sports press twice, ending Middlesex's wankfest in the media.
Yeah.
Playing absolutely crap against whoever it was in the Europa League and still finishing top of their group despite losing. And then you've got the enormousness of deliciousness of all those Brexiter twats up north blubbing like bitter guys who just had 12 of the best across the arse and had salt and lemon juice rubbed in for afters. That's been not a bad week in that respect, really.
I see. We'll be coming to you for the positivity tonight, or maybe our next man can save us. Next up, ABW gent and lovable podder. It's Goonaholic David. Hello, David.
Hello, Gim. What a charming introduction. I'm going to come on here more often, you know.
God, I think you should. I was going to call Danny the plodder and you the podder, but
I was going to say, actually, I noticed you were very kind on Danny tonight. Normally he gets a proper pelter before he's even had a chance to say anything.
Straight up, though, do you know what that is? And the people of this podcast should genuinely be ashamed. I offered 2 shout-outs for this podcast tonight, but the condition was it had to be some derogatory comment about Danny that I could put into the intro, and not one person delivered. Not one.
That's why I'm ABW.
I can't believe that. That's fine, listeners.
No.
Are we meant to have opened the show with who we're backing for this one episode?
Yes, we are getting onto that.
Good, don't forget.
I read the YouTube comments last week, and there was 1 or 2 that weren't exactly enamoured with the shitter glitter, so we've decided to fuck them off. And this week we are being sponsored. David, do you want to say who we're sponsored by this week?
You're not being sponsored by anyone this week. You're endorsing my Movember campaign.
That's the one.
It's all about endorsements. People, get over to Movember, Goonaholic, 2 separate words. That's my name. And you can pay me for putting up with a month of absolute itchy madness just to look like a mangy badger.
Have you thought, though, David, that you could emerge as favourite for a place on the Hipsters podcast with that face fungus that you got going on there?
Trust me, on Friday I will lose that qualification.
Are you going full on razor or like electric razor to get it off, or scissors?
No, I think we're going to go with a number of plastic throwaway razors or something.
How does the lady in your life feel about the beard? Because sometimes they love it and sometimes they hate it.
No.
Hates it. Oh dear.
Yeah.
But it's all for a good cause, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll come back to it later, eh?
Exactly. We've got more
Good
to
man.
say on that later. And finally, you may remember our next guest from the Arsenal in My Blood podcast. You may also know him as Just Deacon, but we call him Stevie. Hello, Stevie.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are we all?
I think we're good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm tired from a couple of weeks of hard work of driving around London. But apart from that, I'm gravy. Looking forward to digest some Arsenal poddery again, like I used to back in the day, as you mentioned.
Back to your roots.
That's it. Yeah, back to my roots. That's
Yes,
it, man. So I'm going to crack open a beer to get things started. There we are.
Everyone's mocking me.
The man's a pro.
Right then. And now we will head over to Danny, as we always do, for the scores across the board and a loan watch if he can be bothered.
Oh, I thought I was going to get away with it there. Cheeky gits. Right, the under 23s have played a couple of games. They played one last week when we were on air, and we lost 3-1 to Swansea. So, but that was because most of that under 23s were getting ready for the Cologne game. Oh dear! But Charlie Gilmore scored there, and then this weekend, I think it was Saturday maybe, we went and beat West Ham 3-0. Couple of goals from Vlador. Is it Vlador? I think Vlad Drago.
Vladimir.
Oh God, it's easy for you to say. At least I can say Nketiah now. So poor Vlad, but Nketiah is a winner. He got one, and so we're now fourth in that league. But so many points behind Chelsea, it's not even worth talking about. But I didn't realise this until I had to look today. Our under-18s beat Spurs 6-0.
Yeah.
Did you not even realise that?
Spurs official Twitter account refused for 18 hours to issue any score updates on that game, and they were harassed vociferously by Arsenal Twitter.
Didn't you see that Lucas Podolski retweeted it with a comment of London is red?
Yeah.
Didn't our ladies beat their ladies 10-0 in the FA Cup this season as well?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, absolute walloping.
And can I make the point that when they did that, those under-18 ladies also won the league at White Hart Lane as well before Rick Sharp.
Shh, you boys.
Oh.
Someone told me that there was a power shift.
Speaking of that Spurs game, guys, sorry to bring it back. Did anybody see Trey Coyle's goal? One of the younger kids. Go and if you haven't seen it yet, go and check it out on Twitter or whatever. Just type him in, Trey Coyle. Up and coming legend. If I'm honest with you, guys, absolutely fantastic. Everyone's getting on. Obviously, Eddie Nikita's back and stuff like that because how amazing he's becoming. Trey Coyle is not far behind. I can assure you of that. And he scored an absolute belter. Couldn't have put it more into the top right-hand corner if you tried. So yeah, go and check it out. It's absolutely amazing.
He is. Yeah. He's a decent player. Played at number 9 for the game. He's only 16, 17 in January, and this season for the under-18s, he's got 1 goal in 2 games so far in the league. But the league's only just begun, something like that.
Just both.
Yep, that's it. The ladies haven't played since we went and smashed Watford 6-0 in middle of November, and I don't think their next game is until the middle of December. So as usual, the ladies' football is interrupted by international. I think there might be a tournament going on somewhere. I'm never too sure. So that was good to see. Injury room, there's only one in there. Little Santi Cazorla, now been out for 614 years. Only 3 weeks till he's back. Makes me sad. But people don't get too excited about him coming back because I don't think he will be. And then
shall I tell my story, Gim, about how when I met him and what I said to him?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I met him in Oviedo. I was doing a small section of the Camino, which is like a spiritual walk. It's really, really nice from like the Alps of France all the way over to the most westerly point of Spain. It's really lovely. But I was in Oviedo, northern Spain, walking past a very random bar and who happened to be sitting there but Mr. Cazorla. This was like before summertime this year. And there he was with his foot like in one of those protective boots. And I sort of went up to him and I said, it's absolute pleasure to meet you and whatever. He was the most loveliest guy. He was smiling, really opening. He was like with his family because apparently he's from around that area. He even played for Oviedo youngsters as well as I researched. And he had a massive scar on his arm and it ended up being the scar that you see now. And I even remember saying to like Gim, saying, he looks like he's been through the wars. He looks like he's in a really bad shape, you know. And I said to him, we really missed you. That creative link that you offered us last season, we really missed. And I hope you come back as soon as possible. And he was, posed for a photo, and he was lovely and stuff like that. But it just as you were saying, it just breaks my heart. What a talent! There wasn't as many ambidextrous footballers like him that could play with both feet. Just wanted to put that out there. He's just as lovely in person as he is on the screen. He's always smiling. Very lovely guy.
He smelt good as well, didn't he?
I didn't smell him.
What?
I should have taken that opportunity. I didn't smell him, but he's a beautiful man.
I always judge people on how they smell, and Gimli is horrible.
And you've forgotten. Charming. You've forgotten one though, Danny. Come on,
What's that?
think of it.
What, play that's injured?
Someone else.
Runny
nose, maybe. Bit of a cough, might be.
Ozil's got his up north flu, as we're going to refer to it from now on. Oh, I'm not going up there, it's cold. I don't understand a word they're saying.
Brexit bronchitis.
Literally, I swear, Ozil will not go any further up the M1 than when it turns into cobbles. So,
do you fucking blame him?
No.
No. If I had his money, I wouldn't go either.
And it scares me even looking out the window if I'm facing north. You can see the campfires and hear the groans of them lugging lions into their holes to be eaten for dinner. Do you lot, Steve, do you think he's going to be back? For Santi ever going to play again?
No.
Holly?
I'd be very surprised.
I know you don't, do you, Gimli?
No, not a chance, sadly enough.
Stevie, do you?
I'd love to see him back. I think that's exactly what we're missing.
Yeah.
You've got Xhaka in the middle of the park, he's a bit of a, he's been brought into the club as a bruiser, but that's not how he plays. And then we've got Ramsey, who's always on walkabouts doing those last-ditch runs into the box, which is brilliant. But then, as you saw I'm sure we'll talk about in the Burnley game, he makes those great runs, but his touch is something to behold. But yeah, I feel like we miss him hugely because he was the player that linked it all together, and his ball retention was absolutely sublime, like unbelievable. So I'd love to see him, but I don't see it happening. They even said like he'd be lucky to walk again and stuff, like considering the infection was eating away at his ankle, literally.
Fucking ludicrous bastards. Anyway, so go back to the right page, and the only lone bit is Takuma Asano. Last season, won Division 2 in Germany with VfB Stuttgart. He scored 4 goals and 4 assists in 26 games, and he was playing left wing, right wing, support, striker, midfield. He's playing everywhere. But the last 2 games he's played for them in the Bundesliga, they beat Dortmund 2-1. He played half the game, and he scored his first goal this weekend as they drew 1-1 with Hanover. And both times he was playing up front, so that's the only one of note. So it's back to you now, Gimli. Remember, I haven't seen either of the games, so I'll be quiet for the next hour.
I will only ask you questions that you can answer by not knowing anything about it other than Arsenal Football Club.
Lovely.
Beautiful. We'll continue on the show then by talking about the first of 2 matches this week. So the first was 1-0 loss to Cologne and unconvincing performance. David, did you want to take this one?
I can do if you like.
Yes, please.
I usually get to talk about the bad ones. As usual, we put the cup side together. A little bit more experience than usual with Danny Welbeck coming back into the side. We played Callum Chambers at right wing back and left Reece Nelson on the bench. But I gather he'd reported an flu of a little bit of illness in pre-match. But the first half was really much ado about nothing. There was an early chance when Jack put Ainsley Maitland-Niles in, but he was a bit of a tight angle and the goalkeeper was able to save it quite comfortably. And in fact, surprisingly, the most likely goal scorer for us in the first half was, don't tell Jason, Francis Coquelin, who had one effort that went just past the post from about 25 yards. And then he came galloping in a la Ramsey and actually hit the post from close range. And that would have been a video to retain and treasure. But other than that, Ospina only had one save to make when Cordoba cut in from the right-hand side, hit a beauty towards the far post, and Ospina went full length to turn it round for a corner. Other than that, we were pretty dire, and I think I tweeted at half-time, if anybody on this side is knocking on the door of the first team, on the evidence of this first half, it's Ainsley Maitland-Niles, because he gave us an outlet down the left. because he really had nobody to mark back at home. So the first half forgettable, and the start of the second half was equally instantly forgettable. We managed to give this guy Girassi, who was playing kind of centre forward for them. He got in between the middle of. How do you get in the middle of a back three? I don't know, but he was clear through, and luckily a bobbler straight at Ospina. And you thought, oh, what a let off. And then within a minute or so, he gets in again, has a run in between Mathieu Debuchy and Per Mertesacker. And Mertesacker said afterwards he sort of stood off him because he knew what he was going to do. And I'm sure it was Guarassi that initiated the contact with Debuchy and threw himself down as if like shot from the crowd. And the Russian referee bought it, gave him a penalty. Guarassi knocks it in. And that really sums up the night. We did get a little bit more lively after that, and we created one or two chances, but there was nobody ever that looked like scoring a goal. And so it was, you have to look at the side that we played. You have to say they'd played 6 matches beforehand, pretty much the same team, without defeat. I'm guessing this one was coming, really. But luckily, the results of the Bate game went our way. So we've actually won the group anyway with a game to spare. So great news on that score.
Steve, we'll come to you next. We put out a very defensive lineup. Do you think we needed a more attacking lineup and we didn't take them seriously enough?
I think, to be honest, we're managing the Europa League pretty well. I think we're managing to not use first-team players. We're managing to not let it tire our first-team players out and interfere with our league programme. The team that just put out, as ever, was on paper was good enough to do the job. There's some first-teamers in there that have got to really look at themselves and say, you know what, actually, that performance I put in there wasn't good enough. You're not exactly playing against a top-level side there. And really, if you're someone who's got aspirations, say, to be playing in an England shirt, then you should be shining way and above and controlling the game. I thought very much we lacked penetration. I think, as Dave said, I think Maitland-Niles got down that left side, was getting in there constantly all the time, getting the ball in. The end product wasn't always brilliant. He did have a couple of attempts on goal, but for me, who's Wenger going to put in there? He got Giroud stood up front, who was too busy falling over. Seems to have a problem with his boots. He can't stand up. Walcott was sick, and if he hadn't have been, he'd have been missing or offside or both. So, I don't really see that apart from putting Eddie Nketiah on, that he could have done much more. I think the penalty it was a gift from the Russian referee. Let's be fair and call it that. And, Cologne went on into their next game in the Bundesliga to get humped. So, to be honest, it was a very sort of like a non-entity, that game. We lost it. We qualified head of the group because of the other match result. So who gives a monkeys? And I think the next Europa game is you don't put any first team hopefuls in there, any Debuchys or Girouds or Walcotts. You put all the kids in and let them play and have a bit of fun, because it's a no-nothing dead rubber.
Mm-hmm. Stevie, we'll come to you next. Chambers on the wing and Nelson rested. Do you think on the night it was a case of square pegs and round holes?
Problem is, Reece Nelson has been playing at the right back position in the Europa League, but he's been doing it the entire time, hasn't he, really? So then playing a defensive, Chambers being there, it showed a lack of width, hence the reason why everyone's mentioning Aizen Maitland-Niles being out on the left as, an outlet, as Gunnar Holick said. I'm not a massive fan of playing defensive football, hence the reason why not Jose Mourinho's a twat anyway, but I don't like his style of football. It would bore the shit out of me. It's massively frustrating, but on the night, it is what it is. I was massively impressed when Reece Nelson came on, considering how much pressure's been heaped on him already. He had one amazing darting run, and I was really unfortunate for him to not put it in the back of the net. Nikita done the same sort of thing a little bit later on as well. But I think what the whole thing here is, if you look at the stats, considering that we played bad, we had 16 shots, 7 on target, so they're 4 and 3. We should have done a lot better. But the reason being is there was a gentleman in the back, in the net for Cologne by the name of Timo Horn, who is an absolute wonder kid. It's only a matter of time before he gets picked up by somebody. He was the player of the season, team player of the season last year, and he's absolutely fantastic. He's 24 years old. He's got world ahead of him, and it was a really good time for him to shine and show what he could do. When you're up against a keeper that is that confident, and that the team really rely on him, and he's been voted the player of the season, and he pulls out a performance like that. Sometimes you're always going to play those games where you just can't put it in the back of the net. We've all seen those games, and I feel like it was just one of those. Unfortunately, we should have won, yes, but then as we've been saying, we did play a weakened side, and I think it's definitely what you should be doing, playing the kids and just having fun and enjoying it. But when you've got somebody like Timo Horn in the back of the net, in the net, sorry, you're not putting it past him with his confidence that he had that evening.
Did you see they also had an outfield player called Horn? So it was kind of the most amazing, ironic thing that you had a team called the Billy Goats with a goat for a mascot, and they've got two horns on the pitch.
Well, there was as strong as maybe not an ox, or like another double horn.
Our ox.
No, say buffalo. Say buffalo.
Buffalo. The strong buffalo. There we go. We've dodged that. We've dodged that bullet. But yeah, Timo Horn's fantastic. It's only a matter of time, as I said, that he gets picked up.
We won't cover too much into this one, and Danny, I'll go to you for the last question. Steve's already said tonight that he thinks we should pick the kids for the next one. I happen to agree with him. It's pretty much a nothing game, and it gives the kids some experience. But when do you expect to see more competitive squads in this competition? I mentioned in the Easter egg of last week's podcast that I thought the Europa League had been fairly boring up to this point, and I'd struggled to get motivated to actually watch the games once I'd seen the team sheets that have been put out. So my question to you, Danny, is when do we start to put out more competitive squads, and who do you expect to see in these squads? Do you still expect to see some of the kids playing?
It's going to have to be depending on who we get in the next round. For the last game, as soon as I saw, like you were saying in the extras last week, I saw the first half of the Cologne game, and I thought, why are you starting a game like that with 6 out of the 10 outfield players that have played at centre back this season? That game screamed 0-0 all the way through. I thought we're not going to score, and we didn't, and it was really boring. So I went and had a lovely bubble bath with my new Tesco's scented bubbles. They were lovely, and so what players are going to play? Again, I think it depends on who we're going to get drawn against, whether we can, if we smash them in the home leg and we get the home leg first, or it depends if we need to do more work, because I don't think, they've got a few questions coming up later, that there is now quite a divide between who is first team and who isn't first team. We've seen the dramatic fall of Giroud, which is something I didn't think we'd see. At the beginning of the season, he was coming on for Lacazette almost every game, but he was still playing in the League Cup or the Europa games and getting goals, and now he's just doing nothing. I feel so sorry for him, partly because of the players that are playing around him and the formation he's been played. Plus, as a striker, you can't just go and play one game, not play for 2 weeks, then play another game. You need to get some momentum behind you. I think this is killing Giroud. So hopefully, if by the time it gets up to the outside of the group games, then he's going to have better competition, and then Giroud might be playing, and then we'll have better players around him. But as for the next game, Wenger won't. He's going to keep playing the likes of Debuchy and El Neni and Coquelin and all these lot who shouldn't be playing in that next game. That next game we should take that as a League Cup game. Maybe play Debuchy, but I think Debuchy's looked okay, and I'd like to keep him as backup right back, because we're not going to buy anybody anytime soon as a backup right back. So I'm not overly looking forward to it. And I remember I've been saying on this podcast for years, fuck the Champions League. Let's get in the Europa League and win it. And I wish we weren't in it now, because it ruins our games that we play on a Sunday, because we're playing any old game on a Sunday at stupid kickoff times, whereas on a Sunday, if we played, it would always be on TV. And we're playing boring games, and I'm not seeing the players play that I want to see playing. Like one of you lot was saying earlier, Chambers playing at right wing back. I mean, Arscast did make a point that maybe that was to give him a really good run out, because when you're playing at right wing back, you're going to be doing a lot of running. So maybe that was just to get him fit. But the formations and the players have been the players that Wenger is putting out for these games are so unimaginative at times. They're just boring.
Mm. I mean, this is a question that I think we can chuck about to people as well, because Has anybody else struggled to get motivated to watch these Europa League games? And I will be brutally honest, hand on heart, right? It got to half time in the game on Thursday, and I was debated going on to play FIFA because it was that fucking boring, and I needed to watch a goal. David.
I accept that last week wasn't a particularly good game, but I actually have enjoyed watching that side in the League Cup and the Europa League. And I'll tell you another thing about even last week's game in Cologne. 3,000 Gooners went out there for the game, and all of them, never mind the match, had a whale of a time, is the kind of sense I got from everybody when they came back. So everybody's enjoyed going to different places. They don't want to go to Barcelona every year. They don't want to go to Munich every year. So this was an opportunity for them to try somewhere else. We're getting better away support in this competition than Tottenham are in the Champions League, which won't come as a surprise to anybody. But no, I really have enjoyed watching the side. I've enjoyed watching Maitland-Niles coming on. I've enjoyed watching Reece Nelson doing what he does. It was good watching Jack his first couple of games back, although he's struggling a wee bit now. So yeah, I'm all in favour of it. But everyone's got their right to their opinion.
I'll tell you what, the confidence that Maitland-Niles and Joe Willock are showing are just unbelievable, considering how old they are, and the minimum of first team football that they've been shown. When like Willock, especially, as when he's in the middle of the park and he's got the ball, he doesn't look flustered. He just goes, I've got the ball, I'm going to play it. Well, if I was that age, I'd be losing my mind. But obviously, in hindsight, whatever. But it's just unbelievable to see these young players coming through, because I think this is a great time to be able to really show what we can do with regards to our under-23s and under-18 players. So
am I right to say that you've enjoyed it, Stevie, sorry?
Yeah, 100%. I've annoyingly the 6 o'clock kickoffs have been a real pain in the arse, because I'll finish a job and then I'll have to sprint to the nearest pub to try and catch the game. But as I said, when I'm a massive fan of Reece Nelson, huge fan of Reece Nelson, and seeing him play, even if it is at right wing back, I'm still seeing what he can do. And then when he came on against Cologne and had that darting run through the middle and just managed to get a shot off, but he got deflected. I'm pretty sure, if my memory serves me well. I was just like, oh yeah, that's what he can do. That's what he can do. Imagine if you got a string of games in the Prem, or and starts really showing what he can do. I love it. I love it. It's really given a chance for all of these players to really to do something. I just find it funny that Francis Coquelin has been playing, is it 134 games now, and he's never scored a goal for us. It's something like that. I find that hilarious. He's apparently the longest standing player to ever play for Arsene Wenger and never score a goal.
Oh, Jesus. Steve, you finished us off on this. Have you enjoyed the Europa, or would you be glad to see some of the bigger name players in the squad?
As I said before, if you look at every team that's played in the Europa before us, they've all gone for playing their first team or half their first team, and they've ended up being absolutely shit street in the league, suffering injuries, people being out for a long time. And I agree with Dave. All through my timeline, there was people going out there, plotting their trip. They're going to places they've never ever thought of going before in the Europa League. They're having a wild time out there, and they had a brilliant time out there with the Cologne fans as well, who were really brilliant hosts. For me, it's great to see these kids playing football at a European level that they would never have dreamed of playing when they joined Arsenal. Well, maybe I'll have to wait till I'm 23 or 24 to get a sniff of the first team. And those kids are getting to play at a high level week in, week out. Is developing them. And actually, okay, the Cologne game away was very boring, but the other games have been really good, and it's fresh, it's exciting. It's not like it has been when we had bad away form in the Premiership. And it's something completely different. And I'm afraid also, as a football fan, you've got to accept there are going to be games without goals, and you are going to have to accept that there are teams who. They know that they're smaller than us. They don't want to get bullied by us. They don't want to get smashed. So they park the bus. If we fail to break them down, that's our own problem. But, I think the Europa League's good for the club's future long term. And something else is that it's an insurance policy, because if we manage to get a decent draw and avoid all the Champions League teams dropping into the Europa League, we could actually get to the final. We could have a chance of winning it. We could get back into the Champions League that way if we don't finish fourth. So for me, it's just, it's another trophy. I'd rather see us do better in that than the League Cup, put it that way.
Well, when do you think that we will start to see some of the bigger name players? Maybe if we get a... No, not at all.
No, you will. He will put them in when he gets a sniff of the sight of the trophy. Why would he risk? Why would he risk getting any first team player injured? Why would he risk getting Ramsey injured to play him in that if he doesn't have to? He's just pissed through the group with basically his second and third choice teams. If in the next 2 rounds he gets easy draws and he gets through that again, he's not risked any players, tired anybody out. He's not got to rotate anybody. This is the other thing, that it's not just the playing; it's the travelling. So people are getting rested. They're not travelling to fucking. If you look at what happened to Chelsea, they had to travel to Azerbaijan to play Karabag, and they had to travel 9,000 miles back and to play Liverpool on Saturday evening. So or Saturday morning. And because they're in the Champions League, they're obliged to play a good full squad. So they were physically suffering in that game against the Scousers. We didn't have that problem. Everybody who played at Burnley had a good rest, and Mesut Ozil had an even extra rest.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think, we managed to get about 25 minutes out of that, and I didn't really give us a hope that we get about 10. So I'm more than happy with the way that's gone. And with that said, we will move on then to our next game, which was a 1-0 win away to Burnley and a goal right at the end. To talk us through this one, Stevie, if you'd like to give us your thoughts.
And I'm back.
You can just talk about the last 2 minutes if you want. I mean,
lots of stuff happened in the last 2 minutes. That was good. So what was the question?
First half was a write-off.
Right.
Second half, we got our ass pretty much in gear. And then in the last 2 minutes, we pulled our finger out our ass and won.
Right, yes. So,
I've done the job for you.
I know. You've basically just got it all summed up in a nutshell. So, first half was an absolute shambles. Burnley were playing really, really well. Defensively, they were solid, but then we know that they've done really well at Turf Moor. That's right, isn't it? Burnley's, Turf Moor, their defensive record at the moment is absolutely fantastic, and it shows by their league position. They are up with us and Liverpool. Second half, we came out of the blocks really, really well. Obviously, Wenger's had a word, but then, as we know, he maybe not have had a word, and they maybe spoke to each other and built each other up. And eventually, Burnley. It was quite funny because in the first half there was a challenge, obviously, where it was offside, but it was a push, and everyone I've lost count how many times I heard same old Arsenal was cheating. I've not heard that many chants in one game in quite a while, which I found really frustrating, as I don't feel like Burnley have earned the right to be able to do that chant.
It's the Burnley Club song.
It's just, it's ridiculous. That was like, I get frustrated when I hear it because it's a pile of bullshit. But then when Burnley, for all the teams.
But they're the perpetual victims. They've got to play the professional underdog. It's all part of the Sean Douche master plan.
I just didn't fucking get it. Like, whenever I hear it, it really, grinds my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. But the amount of times I heard it, I was like, you're fucking having a laugh. And then the irony being is that we managed to get it again in injury time or whatever. And it was a clear push on Ramsey. Come on, let's be honest now. In the first half, there was a moment where Lacazette, there was a throw on, played to Lacazette, and he turned beautifully, played it, carried on running down the wing. He looked up once and just delivered the most beautiful ball in with his left foot. Ramsey, all he needed to do was just keep it down, keep it low and driven hard, good shot. And he just skies it. And once again, it just shows that his lack of quality when it comes to his first touch. And it showed throughout the game. His first touch is really, really bad. And especially when we're playing two in the midfield, you've got to be decent on the ball. You've got to be decent on the ball. You're going to cause a lot of problems to the back three or the back five or whatever. And then the irony being, at the end of the game, there was a push on Ramsey. It was a light one, but it would have been given regardless on the other end anyway. If that wasn't offside, that would have been a penalty with regards to, Burnley. And then Sanchez manages to put it away. Thank the gods. I had to look away at that particular moment because I was extremely stressed. because it was just an awful game. It was just frustrating. It was a frustrating game. It wasn't awful. It was frustrating. It was really stressful. And for Sanchez to have the confidence to go up and put it in the back of the net, kudos to him. But there we go. That's in a nutshell.
That's am I right in saying that's the last 3 games we've done them in stoppage time, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is.
Lovely.
It was 97th minute in the previous game. That's nice. I like that.
Yeah, and then Jack put on Twitter, it's even sweeter when you win that way. Well, maybe not for the fans. I think it was a frustrating day all round.
Yes.
There was some players that had absolute stinkers, and we'll come to that later. But my first question to you, David, would be, are we failing to see Burnley's league position and not realising that this was really a decent win?
It's a very decent win because let's not forget, Burnley went into the game. If they'd have won, they would have gone 4th. I think we and the result of the game, I know you're saying it was awful, boring and all the rest of it. For the second time tonight, I'm going to disagree with you because I thought it was a tremendous game of football. I thought they were up for it. They played really well, particularly in the first half. And I think they put so much into that first half that as much as we came out with an improved attitude in the second half, I think they had less to give, in all honesty. And it was something of a surprise that we didn't win it in the second half earlier than we did. But that made it all the more sweet because, like you say, the crowd were absolutely diabolical. There was a sliding challenge by Xhaka in the second half where their guy went flying into the air for no good reason at all. And they waited until the move had broken down about 2.5 minutes later before they stopped booing and chucking out their bile. They really are the most miserable bunch of fans on the earth. They're even worse than Stoke, and that's saying something. So the timing of that penalty winner, and then afterwards, you just get the pure comedy gold from Mr. Dyche when he comes out and says, well, it was a penalty, but you would never have thought that it was not going to be given, as if to say it was the referee's fault that we got the penalty that he accepted was a penalty. I loved it. I lapped all those tears up.
Mm. It's wasn't there something called Twitter Clarets afterwards? It was a hashtag just to read through some of the Burnley fans and
meltdown, didn't they?
Oh, it was such bitterness, awfully salty. Twitter was awfully salty, wasn't it?
Salty.
Steve, I will come to you next. And the Rambo penalty decision wasn't the only one of the day. There was also another one on Hector Bellerin earlier in the game. For me personally, that was probably more of a nailed-on penalty shout than the Rambo one. What's your thoughts on that?
I want to go back to what Stevie was saying about them singing this song, which is, I find it's always really ironic that you go up to north to some of these grounds and their clubs are sat there with their club glasses on. And, you know, you get people, they want, you know, 85 to 90% of all the decisions to go their way. But Burnley fans, they want every decision. I think even if one of their players came running out of the penalty area with a machine gun and mowed down the sort of the opposing team's front three, they'd accuse them of diving. You know, that's how fucking biased and stupid they are. But then, you know, is that surprising? They're a town that 70% of the morons voted for Brexit, so it's no fucking surprise, is it? But you know, as I commented before, it's part of this deliberate thing of douches to make them out to be underdogs. Now, they're not underdogs. They've got a massive budget. They've got a massive equal share of TV money, like any other Premiership club. They're very tight-fisted with their money. The owners must be copping a right few quid in profit. They set out their stall. You know, and I agree with Dave. I thought it was a fascinating, great game. You know, and the way it was shown on Match of the Day was complete travesty and censorship. Any neutral fan watching that would have thought Burnley were all over us and they should have deserved to win because they didn't show hardly any of the shots we had. They didn't show the Bellerin penalty. They didn't show the tackles where Brady should have been sent off. And this is the thing. It's very ironic that they're singing shame on Arsenal, always cheating. Burnley cheated from the minute they came out the tunnel. Kicking, shoving, pushing. Brady could have been sent off 2 or 3 times. And then they're all jumping up and down in the air because Xhaka slides in and removes the ball from Goodmanson from behind. But Barnes up front, I mean, he was diving and going down more than Tom Daly in a bloody swimming pool. You know, they cheated throughout the whole game. And you know, they got every single decision Lee Mason could give them. We were getting fouled. We weren't getting those decisions. They were getting a tickle and they were falling over. Barnes was making the most of it. And they were getting those free kicks. And this is how they win games. You've got a big forward up front who goes down easily so that they can get a free kick for the hoof and the header. And, you know, that's how they win games. But, you know, don't take away Arsenal's achievement from this, because they've got one of the best home records in the Premiership. I think they've only let in 3 or 4 goals at home. And one of those was the ones we scored yesterday. I just think they pushed the envelope a bit too much with Lee Mason. He had to give that penalty. You can't turn around in a penalty box, put 2 hands in front of someone's back and shove them on the floor as they jump for the ball right in front of the ref. And the ref was very well positioned. And the fact that, you know, it happened in the 94th minute and we won the game, and you know, the salt content of Burnley went through the roof is even better. You know, splendid business, because this is the danger that you play if you tread that line of being victims and playing the underdog and fouling and kicking people, is that karma's a bitch and it comes back and bites you in the arse. And they're still going on about it on Twitter now, you know, which makes it even better. And people have been tweeting them pictures of Aaron Ramsey and Alexis Sanchez laughing all day. It's a great 3 points away from home, where a lot of big teams are going to go and drop points.
What else should we talk about then? Danny, I'll go to you. No Mesut Ozil on the day. Did we miss his spark?
I'd be a little bit worried about, because they are one of the shittest teams in Premier League recent history, but with West Brom and Stoke, I'd worry that he'd get injured. And I think we need him for the important games, like we saw against Spurs, that if he on his day he wants to, he'll play well. Especially if a team lets us play, then we play well, and he'll play well. So there's no point risking him going up there and doing that. Plus, it's cold. He'd probably staying at home with Sanchez's dogs.
Fair enough. And we should call out a couple of the players that didn't have great performances as well, Stevie. Xhaka and Bellerin, I thought, were particularly poor on the day. I didn't think Iwobi was particularly spectacular as well. Just pick through a couple of them.
It's frustrating. Xhaka, as I said, he's been brought into the club to everyone. When everyone, you know, when we signed him and we heard about his, you know, how he picks up red cards, like he's trying to collect Pokemon in Pokemon Go. That's not how he plays. He's got a mean streak, but he's not a bruiser. That's not how he's built. He's built for his long driven passes. And we know when he first came to the club, he showed what he could do. But I feel like there's been a lot of undermined training where it's been said maybe not do that. Obviously, we beat Spurs by doing that long driven cross balls that just ate up their midfield, which was beautiful. I don't understand why that isn't happening, as much. The frustrating thing is, you know, Bellerin, for example, you know, his touch is pretty poor. We were saying it pre-pod that, you know, he's not the player he was last season. Maybe his head being turned in the summer has maybe clouded his talent or his judgment or whatever. But when it comes to his crossing ability, really, really frustrates me. Okay, yeah, we didn't have Giroud in there, but it's all about those quick whipped-in balls to, Lacaz's movement is fantastic. And the annoying thing is that Laka didn't have a great game. And I don't think it's anything to do with him. I think he made some great runs. Obviously, we don't see it because it's off camera. But I feel like the midfield really, really struggled to try and give service to Lacazette. One thing that I really, really loved, though, was Mustafi and Barnes. I thought Barnes was a fantastic, he did really, really well. And he was really causing Arsenal defence a lot of problems or whatever. But I think Mustafi had, against Spurs, he had a great game today. Against Burnley, he had a great game as well. I think he's really coming into his own again. Fingers crossed. Obviously there was a lot of talk about him wanting to go to Italy. Fingers crossed that, doesn't happen. He ends up staying and carries on with what he brought when he first came, the 6 months when he first came to the club. I'm hoping that he can sort of relive that.
I certainly don't think that, if the fans get behind him, there are a lot of boo boys for Mustafi. And from what I can see, the last couple of games, he's been really, really solid, forming a partnership in that, I said partnership, but part of that back three. And they seem fairly solid. So let's hope that with the fans behind him and some decent performances that he gets back to what we saw of him the first half of last season. Steve, I know you want to chip in on this one, so we'll come to you next.
I think Stevie touched on a very valid point there. I mean, one of the problems is I think Arsenal's midfield and Arsenal's system. If you look at how we beat Tottenham by actually not bypassing their midfield. That ball from Mustafi, which was going over the top through the middle for Lacazette, the front three to latch onto, that exposed their centre halves. We could then get at their centre halves and they panicked. But we're not using Lacazette's pace over 5 yards. And when you watch games on foreign TV, you get different camera angles, so you can actually see these runs. A lot of the times he's getting very frustrated up the front there. He's actually showing, it was one thing yesterday where he showed Ramsey where he wanted the ball, and Ramsey looked and then passed it to Sanchez. And Lacazette went fucking nuts. He's making a lot of runs. He's also getting used to the physicality of the Premiership, but we're not using him properly. We're not... Xhaka should be picking that ball up, looking for that run and seeing if he can put that ball right between the centre halves, right where they don't fucking want it, right where Lacazette's going to get in there, take one touch and smash it and get a shot off. And if he gets a shot off, either it goes in, it comes back off the bar, someone else gets a chance if they're following him. I also think that Hector, he has suffered. He seems to be very keen to pass in midfield and take no risks. So I'm wondering whether that's because he's been told not to do that. But I also think he's also getting no favours from the people in front of him, like Iwobi and Mesut Ozil when he plays there, because they don't always track back and cover him. Although Ozil did in the Tottenham game. But Iwobi yesterday, I just thought he was ridiculously wasted. He's got very quick feet. He's 20 odd years old. And he seems to always be shagged out by the 55th minute, which is really weird. I mean, you've just played 45 minutes of football. Okay, that's probably 4 kilometres. But you've had 15 minutes rest. You've had an energy drink. You've sat down. And you come out on the pitch. And then you look around Arsenal's midfield and there's people that are 5 years older than him running like Ramsey, running around like fucking lunatics. And then you look all of a sudden, and there's Iwobi out of position in the middle of the field, wandering around, leaving Hector open like a brass stand King's Cross on Friday night. And this is a point. He's a big guy. So I noticed when he plays for Nigeria, he plays as a number 10. He's never going to play as a number 10 for Arsenal at the moment. So he's either got to shed muscle or get his stamina up to play where he's playing at the moment. Or he's going to have to face facts that he's not going to have a chance of starting. Because for me, his defensive inabilities massively outweigh his offensive capabilities of what he can do. And it's that for me. That was the thing I noticed yesterday.
If I just come in for a moment on the Hector business, the only thing I'll say in Hector's defence, yes, he hasn't been playing that well since he came back. But if you remember last season, he was actually out of the side injured with a very bad foot injury that was causing him all manner of issues. And we had Debuchy broke down early in the season, didn't we? And so we were playing Gabriel at right back, not altogether successfully, and he went and got injured. We literally had nobody else to put back in there but Hector. And it was noticeable towards the end of last season that he lost his pace, which was his great asset. And it doesn't appear to have come back, because if you have a look at it, he's not making those, when he used to make those runs back, overhauling players who were 20 yards ahead of him. That I wonder if there's still an aftershock from whatever that injury was. But then I would look for an excuse for him, wouldn't I?
Well, you're always positive, David, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I know weeks we come on here and we slag people off for calling out the players and things like that. But, I think there has been a few players like with Iwobi. If Iwobi isn't really cutting it in the main team, why don't you drop him down to the Europa League and see if we can't build some confidence that way? Surely you can't tell me that a Europa team with Iwobi in it wouldn't be a better team. Is there anyone that disagrees with that, Steve?
No, I would put him in there, but I would put him in there, but there again, if you put him in there, which kid is going to pay the price of losing their place? So that's something I felt was pissed off about watching the Cologne game. That Reece Nelson's been playing out of position. He's been brilliant, and he got dropped to give Chambers a go at right wing back. He was, to be honest, fucking dreadful. But I think Arsenal's fitness coaches have got to look long and hard. The performance guy, Burgess, has got to look long and hard at Iwobi and say, well, hold on a minute, you're 20 years old. Why are you fucked at 55 minutes? Ozil's running 12 kilometres. He's 28. Aaron Ramsey's running that distance. You're 8 years younger than them. You shouldn't be having this problem unless he's a 30-a-day smoker, and I don't know it.
Wow, he could possibly be. Let's see.
Well, there was one time when I met Iwobi. I meet a few Arsenal players.
You do meet an awful lot of the players, don't you?
I met Iwobi at a really shady hotel one evening, all on his own. He was really sheepish when I went up to him and said, what's going on, Iwobi? Do you mind if I get a photo with you or whatever? Because I met him previously at Reading Football Stadium when I was working for PlayStation. I met him there, and he was a really, really lovely guy. Very, very quiet though. But I went up to him in the hotel. I said, how you doing? He was like, yeah, you're right. What's going on? I was like, well, you're on your own. They're not with a team. No, just okay. I was like, right, all right, then I'll leave you to it, mate. Really sheepish. Saying maybe he was going upstairs to, I don't know, smoke 30 fags a day. I don't know. He's doing it in one evening.
I mean, we've got to find a possibility for this. Right, what else have we got?
Just going back to that Burnley performance, but you want to see how good a performance that was. Guess how many goals Burnley have conceded in 10 games at home this season?
Oh, not many.
Sorry.
Yesterday.
David's gone 100% Dalek.
Oh no!
You're all right. No, you're good.
Am I okay again?
Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, okay. They've only conceded 4 goals, including the one we scored yesterday.
It's massively impressive. But they showed it as well. They just sat and they pressured as well when it was in their own half. They pressured when it was the right moment to do it. They didn't knacker themselves out. They didn't show up. Obviously the problem is when you're holding a formation and one of you presses like Alexis does, it shows spaces behind, and therefore the opposing team is allowed to play in the ball in and around that particular player.
I mean, they're a pressing team. They know. When we were talking about this the other week, they know, like Tottenham do. They know when to press, and they know when not to press.
Exactly.
And when they do it, someone gives a signal, and they all fucking do it. They don't do it like Liverpool. Oh, right, that's it. Everybody press for fucking 60 minutes. Oh, fuck me, we're all dead, and it's 5-0. We're fucked. That's the Gagan press, the suicide press. Yeah. Now, Burnley know what they're doing, and what they did also was that they draw people into traps. What they do is they, like, for example, they let Koscielny pass the Bellerin, and then they cut Koscielny and Mustafi off and isolated Bellerin on his own so they could rob the ball out of him, and then they can turn around and run into the space behind the centre-backs who have got too far up the pitch. They were doing that a lot yesterday. Very clever.
Yeah, it was.
I think clever as well, you also got to remember about them is they won at Chelsea, they drew at Tottenham, they drew at home to Liverpool. The only top 6 side that had beaten them before yesterday was Manchester City, and they're beating everybody.
Yeah, that is very true.
It's a big win.
We should also talk about
Sean Douche being a massive cunt.
No. This is a good one. After Tottenham, who are having this magnificent season, and it seems from a Arsenal point of view, like we've mostly pissed and moaned on this podcast for the last 12, 13 weeks, however many weeks it's been. But we are now actually ahead of them in the league.
And scored more goals.
It's amazing that the Tottenham fans have been anonymous, haven't they, the last week?
I've missed them.
Have you?
No, I'm joking. It's
total sarcasm. I don't think anyone could miss them. No one could miss them. But David, your thoughts on that? How can Tottenham be told they're having such a great season when really what I can see is they've only had 2 really good results against Real Madrid? And Arsenal are having such a diabolical season, only just qualifying for the Europa League. And all the media are calling us crap and our manager's useless. But how the hell do we manage to be above them in the league with such media bias?
There is a lot of media bias, but it's not all of them. Let's not forget we do have our fair share of Arsenal-friendly journos and media people out there. But I have to say, Steve's point earlier about our representation on Match of the Day last night also stretches back as far as the Tottenham game last week, because I was at a completely different game watching it in the flesh to the one that was shown on there. And I do think they've got a big Spurs influence in the production team at BBC there. So it's kind of in key places we get looked at rather more sternly than they do, shall I put it that way? But, you know, you have to put up with that. And maybe because we're usually on top of them, they've had their little 5 minutes in the sun now. And I think they're suddenly starting to realise, with a new stadium coming on and all the financial implications of that, I think they're cottoning on that they did have one season in the sun and it's now all over for them.
Well, let's hope so. And Danny, my question to you would be, does our league position flatter us?
No, I don't think it does. A little thing just sums up. You know, my friend Lee, I can't remember his Twitter
Don't know him
name.
personally.
Yeah, yeah, but he's another deluded Tottenham fan. He tweeted the other day, he's got his account locked. He tweeted the other day, Arsenal have thrown away their Europa League. They have to rely on others to help them qualify. Meanwhile, we go and smash Dortmund. And I replied back to him, actually, I cut it, pasted it, added his @ and then retweeted and then tweeted it again. I said, actually, Lee, we'd already qualified, so it didn't really matter. It was only a matter of where we qualify in the group, first or second. And you played my German team is Dortmund, and Dortmund are having their worst run in many, many years. And then this weekend, Dortmund were 4-0 up at home, and they ended up, and that was 4-0 up after 25 minutes. And then I think with half hour to go, they ended up drawing 4-4, having a boomerang sent off, 10 yellow cards in the whole game. There was a 108th minute goal or something like that. Dortmund are in pieces. Real Madrid are having one of their worst seasons in years. The Messiah, they all seem to think that Zidane is a Messiah, and he's not. He's just a naughty boy. Oh, I love to get in. They haven't done anything brilliant, and so they're jumping up and down. Oh, we beat Real Madrid and Dortmund. No, both of those teams are not the best that they ever are. No. So, what was your question, Gimli? Before I went off.
I don't know. You did raise a good point that got me thinking. I can't actually remember what the question was.
That's his name, a boomerang.
A boomerang. Yeah, you've murdered that. But no, I did see the Dortmund Twitter account actually tweeted a picture of was it Top Rack with
the defender?
With a cup of tea. Was that in any way related to Arsenal? Because shots fired and Schalke put the whole team drinking tea at the end of it. So is Arsenal Teagate become a big thing amongst football now, or were they just showing that? And we said this last week on the podcast, that German football Twitter accounts do great banter.
Genius.
Are we just awfully dry in this country? Because it seems
to
to
me
me
like
PC. Yeah, I always grew up thinking or being told the Germans no sense of humour, but it seems to me like German football Twitter accounts, they've got football Twitter absolutely nailed on, haven't they?
They certainly do. But like Gav has said, me and Gav are children of the 70s, and we're bringing the 70s back, no matter how unwanted it is. Political correctness does not have a home on this podcast.
The original question.
You mean manners and decency do shut right up. Sorry, I'm not associating political correctness with calling people hideous names because their sexuality and their race doesn't agree.
No, we don't have
yours
any
is.
nonsense.
But the fact is, at the end of the day, Teagate was caused by one thing, and that was the fact that the person that was allegedly got all the hate, first of all, got about 10 tweets, although they made it out to be 3 million. And secondly, the only reason they all kicked up was because he was part of the little gang that they're in. I didn't see any of that lot out screaming and swinging from the roofs when Amy Lawrence got so much abuse she threatened to quit Twitter over it, or when Jackie Oatley got so hideously abused on the BBC. Where were they then?
Absolutely.
Tell you where they were then, in the pub talking bollocks. And
Amy is one of the best out there.
It's hypocrisy, and the fact is, at the end of the day, the German press are very different to ours because it's not driven by sports. Over there's got nothing to do with politics. In Britain, it's starting to be used for politics. Arsenal's seen as cosmopolitan. Arsenal's London. Arsenal seen as foreign by those reporters, by Burnley fans. That was what the whole thing was about yesterday. Ooh, look at them. He cooks some chili. That's a shithole. Excuse me. If you look round fucking Burnley, Are you blind?
Seriously, I saw.
And they're sat there voting for Brexit. They're living in a fucking scrapyard like a bunch of fucking steptoes. And they're going,
Feral rat.
yeah, exactly. He comes from fucking Chile and he comes from fucking France. It must be a shithole. Excuse me, have you actually ever stepped outside Lancashire, you fucking flat cat whip it shagging prick? No, you fucking haven't. And that's why you voted for Brexit, because you're a dumb fuck. And they lap up all the bullshit in the
Steve's
press.
gone full Brexit.
They lap up all the bullshit in the press. They love it. And they're all at it in the press, aren't they, yesterday? Oh, Manchester City had a plucky win against hard-fighting Huddersfield.
Just because we're neutral, we should say that non-Brexit options do apply.
But Arsenal, who shit has the win against fucking Burnley, cheated and robbed the plucky northern underdogs. Go and fuck right off. But if Burnley wanted to win the game, they could have tried fucking doing less cheating and fucking bus parking.
They zoomed out on the Burnley Stadium yesterday, and I have to say the backdrop to it did look awfully Merthyr Tydfil-esque.
It looked like it looked like the Warsaw Ghetto after the fucking Nazis.
It did. I thought they were playing in town. Right, Danny.
The irony being that I've been to meet, like, obviously, like, chill with you and stuff, Kim, and been to Merthyr Tydfil and gone, Jesus fucking Christ, this is horrible.
Yeah, it's no oil painting. It is no oil painting.
You know, you're in trouble when the highlight of your village is an Englishman living there with his orange car and his ginger hair.
John, fuck off with your ginger hair. Do you see me making fat jokes about you?
No,
Yes.
this is for the first week. No, in 214 shows. No, well done.
Well, watch this
It's
space.
safe for gingers today. Prince Harry's getting married, to a fit bird, so keep quiet.
Not fucking ginger. So I'll go to you, Danny, and the original question that you forgot, that I forgot, and then we just did this, and now we're back to square one again, was, does our league position flatter us?
No,
Just yes,
actually,
no, we do.
I did start to answer that. No, it didn't. But we're being Arsenal fans, we're permanently in our glasses are always half empty, because we know at any moment we could be 10 points clear at the top of the league, and then we go and play Crystal Palace, who haven't won in 2 years, and then they beat us, because we know these disasters are often just around the corner. Because we're, as an Arsenal fan, we are not built to be capable of being happy about anything after years of Wenger playing centre backs at striker and playing goalies as full backs and all that other nonsense that he does, because just to annoy people, because he can, because no one tells him what to do. But it's a magnificent place to be, and when we should beat Huddersfield midweek, because we're at home, and that puts us on 27 points. And then if Man United don't win and we beat them next weekend, we could go second in the league.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is. I don't like it. I don't do happy.
I have got one final question. And the question is, do January signings need to be made? And the follow-on to that question is, do you have faith that we will make those signings? So I'm going to go to each of you before we move on and go
positive,
to
and now you've come up with that bloody question. Do we believe that?
Who's to say that it won't be positive?
Oh, well, you
It might
Holic
be
first,
positive.
It will be. Save Steve for last.
Okay, so the question is, do January transfers, do January signings need to be made, and do you have faith that we will make those signings? Danny, start with you.
They do need to be made, and no, we won't.
Okie dokie. David?
All depends on whether either Ozil or Alexis or both goes. So if they do, then obviously, yes, they need to be replaced. Depending on who's available. Should they stay, if there's someone available of the right quality for the right money, go for it. But that's unlikely in January.
There is also a great little bit about Ozil and Sanchez and the Arsenal calendar that we hope will be added into the extras by yourself, Danny.
Are we doing our own calendar? Will there be? Can I be in the bath for October?
Good
Do you know
God,
what?
no.
I think you should be. No, I think you should be December,
Yeah.
because running into the Christmas months, I'm awfully depressed, and to have a picture of you up on my wall would help me through those winter months.
We could actually do that. We've got someone who is in the trade who can get us stuff at good prices. So maybe we should have an ABW calendar. But
Maybe we'll
I will buy one. I will buy one. I'll be first to say I will buy one.
Well, what were those ladies that did the calendar where they covered up all their bits with cake?
Don't even go there.
I think Danny.
No.
Seriously though, Danny. I think that you should do one, and you should cover your bits up with a butterfly cake.
I wouldn't half a one, a nibbled one.
Or 2 egg cups and a kidney dish. Either way.
I'm afraid you'll need a pizza for Danny.
Oh.
I wish.
Steve,
It was called Calendar Girls. Calendar Girls.
that's the one.
there
It was
you go.
nothing derogatory. I was just using it as a foundation for our own calendar, where we could get Danny in provocative poses
Football.
being covered. His naughty bits being covered by ice cream or quiche.
Ooh.
Mm.
Yeah, you ever had a Lorraine on you, Danny?
I did. I told her to get off, you Scottish bint.
Oh, fair enough. Steve, drag us back to normality then. Do January transfers need to be made, and do you have the faith that we will make them?
They do need to be made. And first of all, it depends on whether Sanchez and Ozil stay or not. Maybe we do need, secondly, maybe to lodge a few players out to adjust the wages bill ready for the summer in January as well. In other words, loan people out or sell people. I think if we wanted a player and we needed him desperately, we would get one. We might get a loan in. There's the Draxler loan, perpetual rumour. But to be honest, going and buying a huge big player in January, can you see anybody letting their main player in January go unless they're at the Champions League? Monaco might let a player go now that they're at the Champions League, but to be honest, I doubt it. And I can't see us paying £90 million for Lamar either.
No, probably not. Stevie?
Yeah, well, once again, it completely depends on the issue with Alexis and Ozil. There's a couple of players that I would love to see. The problem is, right, you've got to take that punt on a player like Mbappe. Obviously, PSG took the punt on him, and he's turning out to be just as good as they thought he would be. Everybody knows Justin Kluivert, obviously Patrick's son. Obviously at Ajax at the moment, he's doing really well. I know he's young. He is a young kid. He's only 18 years old, but he scored his first hat-trick on the weekend. And you've also got Kasper Dolberg there as well, who's just he's like a hidden gem that everybody needs to know about. But, I'd love to see someone, Arsenal to go out and put money on a player knowing that they could turn into something decent. Mbappe, I was absolutely gutted that we missed out on Mbappe. The guys, the runs that he makes are just absolutely fantastic, and he's got the pace to sort of back it up. I'd love to also see a midfield player come in as well. Obviously, as I said, when I met Santi, I felt like we missed that link, and that was 2 years ago. I still feel like we're missing that link in the midfield where he's got the creative ability to retain the possession and then play the ball through because we're really, really lacking it in the middle of the park. Okay, one bruiser, one creative. Ramsey makes the last-ditch runs into the box, which is brilliant, but we need someone who's got really good ball retention, and I'd love to see someone like Nice's Siri coming in, maybe, possibly. But once again, it boils down to what happens with Alexis and Ozil, and I can maybe see Ozil staying. Obviously, I don't know about Alexis.
No. Right, that's pretty much the end of that segment. Someone's opening a can. Stevie, I'm looking at you. No, you're
totally not opening. No, that's not what happened at all.
Oh, yes.
It's a really nice Heineken.
Oh, you see Danny after this show, he'll be on you.
Oh,
we've already had Steve dipping the sweets.
Not even sharing the sweets. I bet they're lovely Polish sweets as well that are wondrous, full of sugar.
No, it's Cadbury's Dairy Milk.
Oh, you swine.
He's gone old school. Danny, then we'll
Yes.
go back over to you, and you're going to steal the ship with all of the best listener questions this week.
You say steal the ship?
Steer the ship, you tit.
Oh,
I am the cap. I can just see. I am the captain now. I am
the captain on this board. Okay, right. I'm gonna look at my Skype. The order goes Steve, Stevie, and actually no, it goes Gimli, Steve, Stevie, Holic. So you remember that order because it's always different. It's even different on the laptop. It's craziness. So then I know who I'm up to. So I'll start off with you, Steve. Have your expectations of what the team can achieve this season changed at all after recent results? And that's from my very own crabby, bearded, non-Welsh Welshman, John.
To be honest, no. I don't expect us to finish in the top four. I didn't expect us to finish in the top four. I still think it's much of a muchness of the teams around there. We've had a couple of good results. It's too early to judge what we're going to do. You can only really judge that, in my mind, when the FA Cup kicks in, because that's usually when the fucking things start occurring in other teams. You know, in my experience, the reason why teams like Watford and Burnley are near the top of the league is because they've only got to play once a week. You know, they're not having to travel anywhere. As soon as they're playing in the FA Cup and their small squads are getting stretched and they get injuries, you'll see them back off. But I think the teams around us are making as many mistakes as we previously did. So for me, it's just like, well, no, we're sort of like fourth, fifth, expect to be around there ish, and let's see where it goes from here. But in the meantime, let's all have a good snigger at Everton and West Ham, because why not?
Yes. Gimli, why is your Skype photo black?
Why is it black?
Yeah, why haven't you got a photo? Because I just keep looking at the screen, and the screen's black, and your one is black, and then I forget you're there until you squeak.
Yeah, no, I can field that one quite well. Is that actually a question, or is that?
No, that's just my own. Because I said it's going to go Gimli first, so I missed you.
So basically,
very
the picture that I had on there was fairly offensive.
It was.
I won't go into any more detail than that, but we had a big guest on, and I deemed it unprofessional to keep that photo in the presence of quite a big guest, so I changed it. I haven't been bothered to change it back, and this is where we are. I could change it back to something offensive next week if you want.
Depends who we have on. Right, question for you from Matthias Stage, Stage. Might have to pronounce that differently.
Who's this for?
For you.
For
he
me,
says,
okay.
Is Mustafi as good as the stats say he is? That's been a thing with Mustafi, hasn't it? Isn't he one of the players that was bought because of his stats, but then his stats don't prove to be as...
No. I think that was Gabriel that was bought because of
that was it. Stats DNA, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yes.
No, Mustafi, I thought the first 20 games of last season, he was superb. Obviously, there's something that's gone on behind closed doors because a player doesn't normally want to fuck off after only spending a year with a club. God knows what that is. I'm nobody to assume what that is, and I won't try and pretend like I know what it is. But if he plays like he played the last two games against the Scum and against Burnley, he has a long and successful career with Arsenal Football Club. I like him as a player. I like the way he gets involved.
He's ginger.
No.
Yes.
No, that's just a bonus, I think you'll find.
And he's the only Arsenal player this season to have 2 in-form FIFA cards, an 86 and an 87.
And
the more you know, the more you know.
He's a World Cup winner. How the fuck? Do you know what I mean? How can you get rid of a World Cup
And we
winner?
haven't even seen him playing at right back yet, which is what he won the World Cup with Germany playing.
Very true. Very true.
Yes. So, he's a player. He can play at right back, centre back. He's not just one use. As long as
replacement.
Could well be. But as long as he keeps performing, I think the fans will get back on his side. I think in the last 2 games he's done an awful lot to bring the fans back because of the negative press with him wanting to leave over the summer. But with the fans on his side, I think he can do great things with this team.
Okay, Stevie, would you like a question on explaining what a penalty is and when it isn't, or?
I don't have an opinion on that.
Yes! Yes!
That's my answer. Done. Moving on.
I don't know why it said that. It's on bloody Do Not Disturb.
Wow. Oh, make it do a fart again.
Oh.
Echo, make a fart noise.
Yeah, move on.
Fail.
That died on its arse.
Oh, wow. That
Pardon the pun.
Right, so would you like a question on penalties or would you like a question on finishing top 4?
How about this question of someone's just accused him of being a Spurs fan?
Who's accused him?
Nilmar. Is this one of your mates?
Who? What?
There's a guy called @Legend Nilmar. He says, you've got a Spurs fan on your podcast in Just Deacon.
Oh, my God. He's such a twat. I love it that he's got involved. He's a Newcastle fan. And he's part of
electricity. Well done.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. And he's part of my community, and he always takes a piss saying I'm a Spurs fan just to wind me up because I'm a diehard Arsenal fan. So he's not. Don't fucking give him any time of the day, the fucking arsehole. I don't think
I'm giving him abuse.
Give him abuse, twat.
Dirty Geordie.
Yes, Get any question. I don't mind. Penalties or top four, I don't mind. Whichever you want.
Okay, I thought I'd muted myself there as I'm banging around the keyboard like a deranged chimp. Okay, we'll have one on from Nicky Wilson. Arsene said that after the Cologne game that pundits are split on what is a dive or not. Could you please explain what is a penalty and what is a dive? Good luck with that one.
Fucking hell, Jesus Christ. Right, okay. The annoying thing is, obviously, the Everton player recently got, after game... he got banned. Did he get a ban or a fine?
He got a ban.
He got a ban for his simulation, as they call it. The simulation.
It was just dreadful. He just threw himself down on the floor. Didn't even attempt to make contact.
Well, there you go. The issue with seeing it when it's happening right there, then and there, is obviously the referee's going to have moments where he might be behind a player or he might not see full view of it. And when it's happening, like, first time, full motion, I'm sure we'd all have issues. Like, I don't know if I could be a referee, especially the fact that, if you make the wrong call, which is sometimes hard, 65, 75% of the time, you're going to get everyone wanting to try and kill you. And that's probably the reason why Clattenburg left, because he got fed up with the abuse. Apparently, by the way, I've known a few people that have met him, and he's actually a pretty nice guy. Just putting that one out there. It's that grey area, isn't it, with regards to simulation and when it's an actual penalty. I feel like the Premier League could really do with the video evidence, especially with specific situations like that. Have it maybe on his phone, on his wrist. We now have stuff where we can watch stuff on our wrists. Why not have that as a thing? Like quickly check it. Have specific cameras that specifically look out in the penalty area for diving. Just specific cameras. Come on, in Europa League or whatever, they've got guys standing behind the goal line, just literally just standing there with a stick, doing literally nothing. So if they're talking about just completely waste of expenses or whatever, that's easily one of them. It's difficult. It is difficult. And there are going to be times where they're going to make the error. But the frustrating thing is the more and more people dive and not get banned or fined or whatever, the more they're going to keep doing it. And I'm very happy that the Everton player, Niassi or something like that, he obviously got a ban after the game, which I'm really... Two games. Well, there you go. Two games. Brilliant. I'm really happy that's happened purely for the fact that it's hopefully going to make people second doubt, or second think or second guess when they're next going to do it again.
But Lukaku got away with it, didn't he?
Well, he kicked someone, apparently.
That's it. Yeah, because the panel of three referees, they couldn't come to a unanimous... No, all three of them didn't agree. I find that a pile of fucking horseshit, the fact that, Lukaku's got away with sticking his boot out. He kicked backwards and hit the player. It's not like it was off the ball. It was an off the ball challenge. If the ball was there, you can maybe say, he was trying to go for the ball or some shit. But that was completely off the ball. When do you remember when Gabriel, what a player, done it to Beckham. No. I'm talking about. It wasn't Beckham, was it? No.
I'm talking about Costa, the Diego Costa situation where he kicked back at him off the ball and he got a straight red card, or is it maybe a second yellow? But he got sent off for that slight little kick. So what, Lukaku? It doesn't happen with Lukaku. Am I right?
But you're talking about difference in two things. You're talking about foul off the ball, and you're talking about penalties diving. Now, for me, I think my biggest issue with the diving thing is this: that the guy in the Asi, I watched that game because they showed it in Poland. The guy just ran in up to two players and threw himself on the deck. It was a disgraceful dive, and Everton stole a point of a Crystal Palace that they should never have got. And a player's got banned for 2 games and fine, but Everton have still got a point. Now, what happens if fucking Crystal Palace get relegated by 1 point?
Yeah,
and that's and this leads to my next point. Charlison, the Watford player who dived against us, he was let off. They didn't ban him, but it was a dive. Everybody knows it was a dive. My view is this: I think the panel shouldn't be ex-players for starters. I think that there should be ex-officials in there and players. But I think also they should be sat there with all the technology and they should have to justify it, come out and justify their decisions. And if they say, for example, Niasse dived, then Everton have got to have that point taken away. Otherwise, the decision like Charlison, what you're basically saying is, right, you can dive, you get a ban, but it's not a deterrent to stop it, is it? It only stops if clubs get points deducted.
Taking one for the team, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually a really good point. Yeah,
I agree with everything.
You don't think in the long run.
No, I mean, I agree with everything you say about technology today. They could have a thing on the wristwatch like a fucking Nintendo Switch, and they could see it from about 10 different angles, especially if they got that camera whizzing around over the top of them. Well, they could see it from about 10 different angles in 30 seconds. If a player's gone down and the ball's gone out for a penalty, it's not stopping the game or wasting any time anyway.
Yeah,
I think they've got to change the rules. If you get caught diving, not only do you get a ban, which means you're ineligible for X amount of games. But if that penalty, you see, it's like the one against us, which was that killed us off in another game where they got against City.
Man City, yeah,
they got a penalty which is a game changer, and it wasn't a fucking penalty because it was 2-1 and we were attacking it. If they'd not got that penalty, which effectively gave them the game, you see, and this leads me to something else. Tottenham last season, how many games were they struggling in where they couldn't fucking score, and all of a sudden that fucking pedded up twat Son runs across the box to the corner, kicks his own ankle and falls over and gets a penalty for it.
Burnley, funny enough, a Burnley player kicked his own ankle and he went down. Who was it? Was it Barnes?
Yeah.
It was Barnes. He kicked his own ankle, went down. Mason's run over going, oh, it's a foul, it's a foul.
Yeah, but I mean, but my point is this, is that until you stop the benefit, you won't. The deterrent won't work.
Yeah,
and some Spurs fan today on Twitter, he got absolutely mugged himself off. He started going on about a penalty. It was a dive yesterday. Somebody pointed out, if you'd applied that rule last season and deducted points, you'd have been relegated with Ali, Son, and Kane's efforts for the penalties they got that they shouldn't have got. So for me, it's great the guy got banned, but Everton still got a point. And imagine if Palace got relegated by that 1 point. There'd be fucking murder over it.
Apparently, Ali's lost the ball more than, or near enough lost the ball more than Sanchez. Apparently, his ball retention is just as bad as Alexis, or even worse. So the irony when Tottenham fans are always blowing Ali's trumpet makes me laugh. Fucking overrated piece of shit. That
was another thing that I was going to bring up later about this editing of the BBC, that they're selectively editing out of a match of the day mistakes by favoured players.
Oh well, there you go.
Who all just happen to play for England.
Stats don't lie. Stats don't lie.
Match of the day does.
Do you know what I've just seen? And it could be a colossal error by Skype, but we've missed someone's birthday today.
Who?
Raji Poo.
17? No, this is 1708.
It says on here, birthday today.
No, 18th of September. Is Raj Patel 1809? It's the 18th of September.
Yeah, you could be right. I've just gone into it. I just don't open my messages.
Happy birthday, Raj, anyway.
Hey!
Yeah. Should have been on today, but like me, he didn't see the games.
Well, he didn't come on because it was his birthday. Obviously.
He's busy watching the cricket.
It was
busy washing rounders.
Yes. Danny, come on. Next question. Chop, chop.
Okay. Right, one for you, Mr. Holick. This one is... Right, this is quite a few bits because now Twitter is 280 characters. People are taking a piss. So Josh Robinson, 87.
I love it. He
says, our defence is not getting the praise it should be from the media. We've looked really solid recently, especially with 3 at the back. So it's a couple of questions. Are you now happy to stick with the current formation, or do you want to change it? And also, right, is the two teams, one for the Europa League and one for the league, causing segregation in this squad? Over to you, Mr. Holick. Wise words, please.
First question about should we keep the current defensive setup? Absolutely, yes. Ever since we employed it for, was it the last 11 matches or something of last season, we've looked a different side defensively, and the fact that we've got 3 there at the moment who complement each other so well. Who'd have imagined that Nacho Monreal, who actually kind of, after a dodgy start as a left back, came into the middle of a 4 got form in the middle of a 4 and went back to being an outstanding left back. Now he's outstanding in that on the left side of that back 3. I think overall, if you take out the Liverpool game, we are looking absolutely solid there. Of course, if you get injuries, suspensions, then it becomes a little bit different as to who comes in for who. And I don't know who I'd sooner see on the left side, for example, if Nacho was suspended. But no, that part of it, yes. The second part of it was what?
Oh, it was... we've obviously got 2 teams now, one for the Europa League and one for the Premier League. So is it causing segregation between the squad? Good question.
It's a very good question, to which I'll have to be honest and say I really don't know the answer. Other than there is a degree of interchange in there, because you've had 1 or 2 of the senior players in earlier matches have gone into that side when we haven't had sufficient kids to keep it, when we've been missing kids, or when they've had international commitments or something. So there has been a kind of a mixing together there. But yeah, you do get the feeling that, for example, Olivier Giroud will be thinking, I don't really want to be part of this 11. I want to be part of the other 11. And good, that's how players should think. But it'd be only human nature if they aren't getting a little bit hacked off with the situation.
That's a very good answer. Very well put. Gimli.
Yes.
From this someone called Jimmy. I don't know if it's Jimmy that's due on next week or not. He says, if the table finishes as it is currently and Arsenal are top 4 after a season without Champions League football, will people finally agree that top 4 is a trophy, as Wenger said?
I think people probably would, to be honest. I mean, I know people on the podcast tonight has said that they've enjoyed the Europa League, but I haven't enjoyed it one bit. I think it's been fucking boring, to be quite honest with you. I miss the Champions League nights playing against the elite. I mean, if you give someone a Bayern Munich at home or
getting fucked up the arse 5-1 twice, fuck that.
Yeah, but wouldn't you rather be playing against the best clubs in the world?
If you're good enough to beat them, yeah, and we're not currently, and we haven't been, and that's the fact. Is all we're doing in the Champions League is lining the pockets of Stan Kroenke, who's not spending the money. And for me, I'd rather be in the Europa League and play teams that we've not played before and that
are more on our level.
No, they're not more on our level because we're beating them. But the fact is, it's fun. You're playing the same fucking teams in the Champions League all the time.
To be honest with you, Steve, that Red Star game at home at 90 minutes, if you'd have turned around and told me that the Europa was fun, I'd have probably fucking chinned you.
The thing is,
I think that would have been a mistake, if you don't mind me saying that.
No, it would have been a definite mistake.
We'd have sent flowers.
The problem is you wouldn't have been able to stand up anyway, so it's neither here nor there.
I wouldn't have been able to reach you,
you'd only be up to your knees.
But it's all about to be the best. You got to beat the best. I know it's frustrating in the Champions League and everything. We're gonna become a better football club by playing the better teams at the end of the day, aren't we? Playing the sub teams or whatever.
What happened coffee?
Oh, okay, cool. Playing the sub teams or whatever in the Europa League, even though we're playing kids or whatever, and some other players that don't generally get first team football. Yeah, we're playing these teams and it's fun and everything, but I don't feel like we're getting the best out of the players. When you've got players like Olivier Giroud who would literally love to play in the Champions League. But
let's be fair, he's not going to start. Why would you start Giroud in front of Lacazette? This is the point we just talked about. Is there segregation? And Dave's made the point. If you don't want to be in the Europa League side, there's quite an easy way to it. Impress the manager, say picks you for the first team. If you stand there moaning and falling over and you're constantly
of course, 100%
static, which Giroud was absolutely hideous against Cologne for.
No, very true.
You deserve to be there. And if everybody's fit, and it's the same applies to Jack Wilshere. If everybody's fit, Jack Wilshere's not starting, and neither's Olivier Giroud. And are they tearing up trees and showing people that they're world class in the Europa League? No, they're fucking not.
I'm loving people talking about how Jack Wilshere deserves to get a start in the Premier League. I'm cracking up at that shit. Yeah, I've got a massive soft spot for Jack Wilshere.
Me too. But let's be realistic.
Exactly. Let's be realistic here. Let's not walk around with our tinted glasses and go, oh, I'm in love with Jack Wilshere. He's, the messiah of Arsenal and England or whatever. That was years ago. Move on from that. He's a different player. He needs to try and change his the way he plays. I'm happy now, though, that he can take a challenge. There's been many times now he's been able to take a challenge and get up again, which is the first time in many years I've seen Jackie Wilshere get a challenge and I've not gone, oh, fucking hell. Oh, is he going to be all right? So that's a positive at least.
Okay, lovely. Right, this one is for. Have I given you your one, Gimli?
Yes, well, I just had it.
Oh, okay. What was it? What was the question?
It was if the league finished right now and we were in the Champions League, would you prefer that more than the Europa?
Okay, I'd scrolled down too far. Oh, yeah, because I swapped your question with David's because I thought David would prefer that one. Right, this is one for you, Steve. It is from Phil Paps. Bear with me for the beginning because 280 characters. He's given us an entire fucking internal monologue. So, starting 11 for the next game. Jack starting over members of the team. Southgate's comments on Wilshere. Hector being average. Media reporting that Van Bronckhorst being named as Wenger's replacement. I think that's the question, the last part of his monologue. And Jonas82 also asks about what's your thoughts on Van Bronckhorst being the next Arsenal manager? For people who don't know, Van Bronckhorst, we bought him from Rangers for 7.5 million, I think, in 2001. He got a bad knee injury, and then we loaned him to Barcelona, and then they gave us Cesc Fabregas, and so they kept him, and he's only 43 in February. 107 games for the Netherlands. He played left back.
We don't need his biography, do we?
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, Danny, you're as
most people won't
person.
Going full fucking carpenter there.
So the gist of it is,
morning and 2 eggs sunny side up.
Nonsense. Gist of it, he's been Feyenoord manager since he's his 3rd season now. He won the league with them last season. 109 games, 66 wins
in Holland.
Yeah, so he could have won 110%.
Can we go back to the question that I've got to answer? What was the first thing he asked about?
Oh, Jesus. You don't want his entire starting 11 for next game. Like, we can go through that.
Right, okay, right. So starting 11 for the next game. Ozil won't be playing because Wenger's already said he's out.
Yeah.
Huddersfield ain't going to be an easy game to play. They were really impressive yesterday against City. They didn't deserve to lose at all. I felt they were a bit cheated by Sterling. I think Sterling tried to get a penalty with a divey fucking snide business, and about 10 minutes before that penalty was given. That was a penalty, but he was looking for it, little shit. That they're very well organised. They attack well on the counter attack, and they've got some good players. So I don't think we can afford to rotate massively. We're gonna have to keep the defence as it is. Their midfield's quite strong as well. The question is, do you want to go and put Jack in the front 3 instead of where Ozil is, or do you put Danny Welbeck in there? He ain't going to rest Sanchez. People are saying he ain't going to rest him. Sanchez will want to play. So I think it's going to be the same team with no Ozil and possibly Danny Welbeck starting to be subbed off when he gets eventually fucked, and Jack coming on for the last 30 minutes.
Oh, okay. So
next bit of that question.
Jack starting over other members of the team.
Not going to fucking happen. He is not ripping. If you can't shine for 90 minutes against Bate Borisov in fucking Belarus, you can't start for Arsenal. Next question.
Southgate's comment about Phil's loving this. Southgate's comment about Wilshere.
Southgate's a dick because there's plenty of players he's picked in the squad that have played less minutes for Jack Wilshere, got less skill. But he's got a point. I think he was there yesterday watching the Burnley game. He was watching probably mostly Burnley's players, but Jack Wilshere came on. I don't think he did bad. He had a couple of chances to score. I'll be honest, I'm an Arsenal fan. I don't want Jack Wilshere playing for England. England's full of Spurs and Liverpool shithouses, and I don't want him getting injured on a meaningless friendly playing for fucking England. I'd rather keep him fit at Arsenal. Next question, next bit.
Hector being average. We covered this, haven't we?
We covered this, and part of it is, yes, I think Dave's right. I think since he got injured, he's lost a bit of his speed. Second, he's been told to cut down his advances up the pitch because he's got a Wobie in front of him who doesn't cover him fucking defensively, and Ozil sometimes forgets as well. Next.
Media reporting about Van Bronckhorst. Do you want me to go through his career?
No.
Van Bronckhorst was a good player at Arsenal and he was a good player at Barcelona. I don't think that he's got the experience, or he's managerially, or he's got the experience football managerially or business managerially to come to a massive club like Arsenal and be the manager, even though he's going to be a manager which will be the first Arsenal manager. He'll have a football director, he'll have a chief scout, who Mr. Diamond Dyers, and he's going to be responsible to Gazidis in the football committee. It's going to be completely changed after Wenger's has gone. No, I don't think he'd be a good choice for Arsenal, because I just think the thing will overwhelm him. It's too big a job for him.
Okay, thank you very much. And Phil is probably doing high fives to the cat now because he couldn't believe someone answered all of his questions. But that's just us. We're all loving. Right, one for you, Stevie, from Darren Ross. Do you think it's possible to sell Alexis and Walcott and get Lamar and Draxler in January?
I love it how Walcott's been added to it. First question, counter question, who's going to buy Walcott? Just want to ask that, and how much money would he be getting for it?
West Ham.
He's made
West
for
Ham,
them.
West Ham, yeah. And how much are we going to get from West Ham for Theo Walcott?
The problem is we'd have to do an Adebayor like City did and subsidise a little Dick's wages, because
We'd
otherwise
have to
they
do
won't buy him.
something. Yeah, he's on 140k a week.
Other than that, it's a Ukrainian hitman and have him shot and claim the insurance.
Exactly. What the hell are we going to do? How are we going to get rid of him?
Oleg
If it's a toss between, Alexis or Ozil, I see Ozil staying at the football club and I see Alexis leaving. Where he goes, I'm not entirely sure, because Pep Guardiola hated him at Barcelona, so who knows? When it comes to signing someone like Draxler, though, I've been a massive fan of Julian Draxler for many, many years when he was at Schalke. When he went to PSG, I thought it was the wrong move. I didn't think he fitted into their play style. He's a fantastic player, and I think he could do really well at Arsenal. I think we're lacking width when it comes to the final third. The only width we do have to offer is our wing-back options, and Bellerin has shown many, many times, especially this season, that his final third ball, whether it be a cross or a pass, is lacking. And, it does obviously say about Iwobi or Ozil not being there for him in the defensive, so it does cut him out. So there's a reason why he may not be pushing up as much. But I think Draxler is very good at drifting. He does drift out wide a lot and puts the ball in. Look what happened with the Burnley game. Lacazette was out wide, played the ball in for a late run-in from Ramsey, showed what we could do. Maybe if we had a bit more width in that final third with those two players sitting behind the striker, maybe sometimes pushing out wide to offer something there, to maybe spice things up a little, to put the ball in, who knows. So I'd love to, I would love to see Draxler. At the end of the day, I regardless who plays for Arsenal Football Club, I want people to play for the shirt and not their wage.
Thing is, with Draxler, he's also a big mate of Ozil's, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, we've been going for about an hour and a half now, so just a few quick fire questions and a few like Schwinn. This isn't a question; it's more of a statement. Schwinn says 2 decent wins on the trot, potential for a third on Wednesday. Going into the Man United game, in the top 4 now, some convincing defensive work and positive results and performances. Other than City dominating the league, is it really that bad? Well, I don't think it is. Noir Confidential says shirt numbers 4, 7, 10 and 11 will be up for grabs next summer. He asks who should get them, or do we care? Well, there's no point in predicting any of that because Wenger's going to take no notice. Mark Blondale says, are we happy or sad that Lukaku isn't banned for kicking his opponent twice, given his record against decent sides? I think there's the positive side to that is if he plays, he probably won't score, but if he does score, it'll drive Chris nuts. Potty Mouth Neil says, United at home on Saturday. Let's discuss them at the start of the season compared to them now. I'd say they've declined, and since Spurs, we've improved. I think we will beat them. That's good. Cam has said, what kind of team would Theo Walcott actually succeed in? Obviously not Arsenal. I think we just decided West Ham on that. Neil McKeown says, does it frustrate you that we worked our balls off to bring in world-class talent and it appears we can't keep them? We're an angry mob. We need someone to blame for this. Contract man, Arsenal, or Rob the chef? Any views on that, David? The squeaky chair seems to agree.
Squeaky chair.
David?
Whoops. Who's on mute? One a week. There's always one.
You've gone full Gimli.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whoa.
No, not a clue is the answer. Not a club.
Oh, good. That means we're going to go to the next question. From John A.L. Short, he says, if Ozil and Sanchez were sold, will team spirit go up or down? I think Ozil and Sanchez are quality, but their in-out mentality, etc., and wanting to move could be affecting the team, Gimli.
I think
that's a good point.
Alexis, is only playing because he wants to stay footballing relevant, so to speak, or keep himself in the shop window. I certainly don't think he's playing for the love of Arsenal at this moment in time. And what's actually wrong with Ozil at the moment?
His altitude sickness. He can't go up north.
So is his cold that bad? Is his cold that bad that he can't guarantee him being ready for Wednesday? Then
no. Actually, what happened was that he travelled with Arsenal because he was seen by fans in the hotel at Preston where they stayed. The doctor came downstairs to Wenger and said, there's no way he's playing and there's no way he's going to be able to play against Huddersfield either. So they got Ainsley Maitland-Niles to be driven up from London. He was driven up from London and he only got there with an hour to spare to be on the bench. So he is actually ill.
Well, what was the initial problem, though? Is it a virus?
I don't know. I don't know, Gimli. They don't give out players' medical details. But if Wenger's saying he won't play him at home against Huddersfield, a team who sit back and need breaking open, then I'm presuming he's ill because you'd play him.
Mm.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Quick one from Petito. Oh, Petito 100. He says, "What are your guys' favourite and least favourite away football grounds?" While you're having a quick think, one of my favourites was Villa Park. I've been there, I think, 2 or 3 times. I quite liked that. And my least favourite was probably Bolton, the old stadium, because where I sat next to the dugouts, the pitch was literally the same height as my eye level because I was sat down. And I thought, if it rains, I'm going to drown. David, have you got an answer?
I did have a minute ago. Where was I thinking for the worst away? Oh, Southampton, the Dell, when they were at the Dell.
Yeah.
That was an absolute tip shoved in that cage there. And best away ground, I've got to say the old Stamford Bridge, because that's going to surprise a few, I know, but we usually had a decent day out there many, many moons ago. But yeah, that's my two.
They spent most of that time in Division 2, so you didn't go out there that often, did you?
Oh, no, they were a lot. We spent there a lot of time. They seesawed between 2 and 1 a lot.
Yeah. Steve?
Least favourite away game? Ellen Road.
Oh.
Fucking hideous
place. Good shout.
It's on an industrial site on a fucking hill. When you go there, you've got to go through all these industrial units, little alleys and shit. And the worst thing is the alleys that you're going through have actually got paths over the top. So the fucking bastards are like the Red Indians fucking hiding on the top of the Grand Canyon, lobbing fucking dustbins down on your paving stones, bottles, absolute fucking murders up there. And because the problem is, as soon as you open your gob, you're fucked because it's up into Yorkshire. And I remember once we went up there and I worked in Manchester and one of the geezers that worked for me came and said, "Oh, my missus has just got us 2 tickets for the Arsenal versus Leeds." I said, "Oh, well done, Mark." We're driving to Ellen Road, park the car, and Mark says, "Whatever you do, don't say fucking nothing when you get there." So we got down there and we walked in the ground and we sat down and I've suddenly realised we're in the fucking home end. And this was this game where I think it was an FA Cup game. I think Limpar got the ball off of our goalkeeper and ran about 50 yards, beat every fucker and scored this magnificent goal.
4-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Mark just jumped up and I just knocked him spark out before anybody else did, and just grabbed him, hauled him down the front and said, "This copper, can we go in our own end?" And as we're being escorted up our own end, we were getting hails of coins and fucking tins and Christ knows what hurled at us, and people shouting out, "Cockney bastard, sit in your own fucking end." And the worst thing in there is as you had to go through to get to the away end, you had to go through behind the lunatic end. So you're going through into corporate or something, with your suit on, and basically you're going to the cage of Yorkshire animals in there, lobbing all sorts of shit at you. So that would be my worst away ground. Best away ground? Man United, Old Trafford. I've never been there and seen us lose. My dad's got a picture of me the day Overmars was sent clear and slotted the ball past Ian Wright. We reeled those fuckers in and won the league. and I'm the only person standing up in the stand behind the Man United bench with his arms in his air. And the dick in front of me said, "You think you won the fucking league now, don't you?" I turned around and said, "Yes, we have, you cunt. And I've got a grand that says we'll win it." Never saw him again. We did win it. That was the day also I got banned out of the corporate lounge for driving Roy Keane mad.
That you told us about that before.
I mean, the best thing was I won the raffle. You know, like you have these raffles, like you buy raffle tickets for charity, and I won the raffle, and I won a complete Man United home kit, and they went fucking mental. You can't have that. I said, I am. I took it outside and gave it to some poor bloke whose kid was disabled. And Roy Keane actually came out. I got him to come out and sign it, which was pretty decent of him. The kid was made up. But,
I like Roy Keane.
Yeah.
I'd have liked him more if he'd have played for us.
I don't like his Captain Birdseye look, though.
Right, so did
you see the other day he turned around and he said, "I wouldn't watch Liverpool if they were playing in my back garden." I thought that was I thought that was just a fucking genius comment from the bloke.
Stevie, what's your grounds?
Grounds, as cliche as it is, away ground that I hate, the empty had, as they call it, purely for the fact, obviously it's quiet, but it's the most uninspiring ground I've ever seen in my entire life.
West Ham, Jesus.
Yeah. Similar to it, but the fact that it just looks like someone, you know, when you get those concrete mixers and you just sort of pour it out onto a piece of wood and you mix it up on the ground with a spade. It looks like that, but with some iron rods stuck through it. It's the most uninspiring ground on the planet. And then best home ground for me as a youngster was Highbury. You know, as I said, as a cliche as it sounds. Purely for the fact that, you know, that spiral staircase that came down into the car park. There was a time when I was about 5 years old and my dad was there because he used to do the you know, they had underground training with the inside football. He used to play there. They had an underground inside football area underneath the grounds, and he used to play there. And I was there. I was about 5, kicking a ball about, and then Seaman came down, Ian Wright came down, and all that. And he got the ball signed.
20% of your ball for doing it,
probably. And he wanted, you know, my dad got the ball signed by all of them and everything. I'm 5 years old. I put the ball back down. I started kicking it around again. My dad lost his shit, tried to stole the ball off me. But yeah, that's that. You know, for home grounds, nothing. You know, for favourite grounds on the planet, nothing beats Highbury. Nothing.
There used to be a room for the naughty boys downstairs in the Highbury as well.
There you go.
Which I may have paid a couple of visits to in the past.
But that's it. I didn't realise that was not no knowledge. Like you saying, you know, you didn't know about the underground training.
No.
So there was an underground inside training ground where they used to play five-a-side football against.
So where would it be? Like underneath the pitch?
No, I think it was underneath the car park.
Because I remember I've parked in the car park once, and that was it. And I just went up, didn't go down. Right, next, Gimli, you're next. Favourite worst away grounds.
Because does the favourite away ground have to be in this country?
I'll be on the moon if you want.
Lovely stuff. My worst is probably West Ham. I went there. I'm Plymouth, mate.
What, new West Ham or old West Ham?
Old West Ham.
I quite like that ground.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I was sat right behind the goal, and maybe it was because the experience of the day. Because Plymouth lost 5-1 to them, and I fizzed a coin, and it nearly hit Teddy Sheringham.
When I went to see that,
it whizzed past his temple.
I didn't see Arsenal play either. I saw Chelsea, West Ham in the League Cup, and West Ham won 1-0. I mean, Chelsea won 1-0 about 94.
They had all the bubbles and shit, and the hammerettes, which most of them were ugly. It just wasn't a nice experience. The day in general.
Endearing himself again to our female listeners.
They look like they've been hit in the face with a hammer.
I'm all right. I've got Kate. I don't need to please anyone.
No, even her.
Probably my favourite away.
Don't say Merthyr Tydfil for fuck's sake.
No, I was actually going to say the Mestalla in Spain. I walked right up to the top of that ground, and I'll tell you, that is scary looking down. But what a ground.
Whose ground is that?
Valencia.
Oh, very good. Right, so we're going to a couple more questions, and then we're going to move on because we've been nearly reaching the time, and I think David needs a wee. So Thomas Reynolds wants to know, should we start taking the Champions League more seriously when we get to the knockout stages? So I'll just quickly go to everybody. Yes or no, Gimli?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Stevie?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
I should say we haven't not taken the The knockout's not seriously
No,
held.
we've not seen Sanchez and Ozil, have we? Yeah.
Of the Champions League.
No, in the Europa League.
You said Champions League, you fucking tool.
Did I?
Yes, you did.
You did.
You know what I meant.
But we knew what you meant. We knew what you meant.
I was fucking reminiscing of days gone by.
So have I been for the last half hour.
Yes, Danny, kick this shit on.
Okay, we've only got two more things. John Lamb, why does Bellerin seem so reluctant to take on players? Always take an easy pass. Confidence or being tactical? I think we've covered that.
Now.
And he's just shit the bed. And finally, Neil McKeown, are you guys chatting about Ivan and his revolution? Gazidis appointing all the backroom staff. What are your thoughts on him clearly preparing for a post-Wenger Arsenal? Anyone want to answer that in one paragraph or less?
Me.
Go on.
Yeah, yes, Gazidis is not just preparing for Arsenal after Arsenal's gone. Gazidis is preparing Ivan Gazidis FC. He's moved his office to Colney. He's brought in the guy from Dortmund as head of scouting. He's also looking to bring in a football director, whether it's the guy from Barcelona or the other guy mentioned was from Dortmund. Probably won't be him. And he's bringing in medical science people. He's putting in everything in there that is going to be the new machinery that Arsenal's going to function over. And Arsene Wenger's going to have to work with it, whether he likes it or not, because it's all adding value to Stan's asset. It's all helping Arsenal to win. Stan wants to win because it makes his asset more valuable, and Arsenal's going to have to use it. And yes, it will be there after Arsenal's gone. But anybody out there is thinking that when this contract might not get a renewal, think again, because he may well. But the fact is Gazidis is slowly reeling in control, and good stuff too.
Okay, well, normally at this point I say thanks to all the other people, but there's so many other questions we didn't get to. So thanks to everybody. Give me predictions.
Lovely stuff. The first prediction then is our home game against Huddersfield on Wednesday night, is it?
7:45, yes.
Lovely stuff. And I'm going to go you, Danny, first.
3-1 Lacazette.
Beautiful. Steve?
2-1 Alexis Sanchez.
David?
2-0 Lacazette.
Beautiful. That's what I would have gone for. Stevie?
3-0 Ramsey, it bobbling off his knee.
Lovely.
Because his first touch is competing with Lukaku, apparently.
And I'm going the same as David. I've got written here 2-0 Lacazette. So we will go back to fourth then. And Man United at home. And Stevie?
Oh, it's going to be a scrappy 1-0 to us. I can't bet against us. I just can't do it. And it will be Alexis with a 25-yard curler in the top net. Oh, I love it. Oh.
Beautiful. David?
1-0 Koscielny set piece.
Oh, tasty. Tasty.
Steve?
2-1 Lacazette.
Fuck's sake. Now
Lacazette pinpoint finish in the corner.
Oh.
Danny?
I'm going to go 1-1 Fellaini because we're going to be winning 1-0 and that fuzzy-haired fucker is going to come on in the 90th minute and header one in whilst elbowing one of our players and get away with it because he's a shitbag.
Wonderful. I'm going to go 2-1 Lacazette like Steve. And we'll go to shout-outs then. My first shout-out, as I said earlier in the show, I was looking for zings on Danny and everybody failed to deliver. So disappointed in my Twitter followers. But one man that did pop up, and I'm just going to make something up. He said you were a fat tit, Danny. And that man is Lacquer Gunman, at Lacquer Gunman, which is at LACAGUNMAN. I want to get him on the radio show. We did speak. Danny, you can back me up on this. I spoke to Jason last week about getting him on the show.
What's his actual name, not the at bit?
You read one of his questions.
I thought I did. He was in the pub with Mike from Goonies in the USA, and I sent him a video saying hello.
Yes.
And he'd gone.
But I'd like to see if we can't stud him out to the radio show.
No chance of that.
No.
Not there, like.
Yeah, no, we will. I can pull some strings for him. Danny, let's have your shout out.
Just one. We had an email, and if people send us the bother sending an email, it's a short one. I should at least read it out. It says, "Hi, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say that you guys are awesome." Oh, thank you. Other Arsenal-related podcasts try not to insult anyone and be politically correct, while you just don't give a shit and say what you think. He says, "Thought you could do with more hate aimed towards Man United. For an Arsenal player, Ozil, to even contemplate joining them is unforgivable. Cheers, Matthew." And my gentleman's nod is going to go to Shredder, Josh and Ellis, who managed to do an hour and a bit after that Cologne game. How the fuck you managed that, I have no idea. And then to Jason and John, who did an hour and 37 minutes, which was longer than the actual fucking game against Burnley. They managed to milk that. And not only did they milk it, they made it fucking entertaining. So thanks to them five and to all the people who join in on a match day to join in with a chat and put up with Jason and his Welsh justice, banning everybody for not being Welsh.
He is just a very, very angry man.
Oh, he is.
He is. Steve?
I would like to give my shout out to a group of blokes who went to the Cologne game. They call themselves Arch Tours. Bunch of chaps who enjoy their beer and their grub and their away trips. They go away on these huge jollies. It's a bit like the Only Fools and Horses away date at Margate for them, and they love every minute of it. They go there, they went to the game and had a fucking great time. And they're also some of them are the guys that run OPA, the Arsenal Football Association. Yeah, big shout out to them. They know who they are.
One of them might have the same name as me.
I doubt it.
Yes, he does.
Does he?
Yeah, he's a good lad.
I stand corrected, said the man in the orthopaedic shoes. David.
Excuse me, I'm just going to have to write a very abusive email to Canal Plus Poland because they appear to be showing fucking Everton West Ham instead of us on Wednesday.
What?
Utter cunt buckets.
Yes.
Unlucky. Right, mine I'm going to give, if you don't mind, just the one, and it's not going to be to an individual, but we mentioned earlier my Movember thing I've been doing for men's charities. It's while we've been recording tonight, has actually hit the target of 1,200 quid.
Yes,
which has just blown me away.
And did you see who did it?
Yes, I did. So I really ought to give him a shout out because he is one of nature's real nice guys. So it's at Sir_Livers. He's bunged in the 30 odd quid that I was short of to hit the target, but I'll gladly take more. So thank you to everybody who's put in. There have been some tremendous, very surprising and very humbling donations in there. And thank you all.
Very well done. And finally, Stevie.
My shout out is to a dear friend of mine. Everyone knows him as Blame, but his @handle is @Luke_Heron with 2 R's. Luke Heron 2. He's a Watford season ticket holder, but he understands what football is, which is apparently very rare in football fans nowadays. So I'm just going to chuck that one out there. He's a good man. So that's my shout out.
Wonderful. So that's it then. And all that's really left is to thank my wonderful guests tonight, Steve, Stevie and David. It's been absolutely magnificent having you on. Danny, as always, you had to be here, you fat tit.
You've been decidedly average.
Do you know what? I think I probably have this week. I've been disappointed. I'm downbeat. The Europa League is awful.
It's times like this that I wish you'd have taken that £10 to go on to I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Just to see you eating John's crabs.
It's not the first time I've had a testicle in my mouth either, to be honest.
No, fair enough. You leave Thailand out of this.
I take it we're done then.
Yes, we are definitely done. So that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and sorry for being average. Good night.
Hoi, 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 cheeky monkeys, and here's a little bit of shenanigans from before the podcast started.
Right, so how do you guys plan to fill an hour and a half talking about a 1-0 loss and a game that was fairly shit until the last 2 minutes?
I think we're going to be reliant on the questions.
This is why I asked Stevie, because Danny was going to go, oh no, we'll go into it with just Steve and David. I'm like, with all due respect to Steve and David, it's going to be difficult with just two panelists trying to discuss. Another opinion will always pack out the show, so that's what we've gone for. That's why we've asked Stevie on.
Yeah, no worries.
Well, our Stevie's like two people anyway.
Stevie's lovely.
Yeah, I said
He
ask
came
Steve.
over to my house once and then drunk a lot of Jack Daniels.
There we have it. Yeah, no, it's not going to be easy to talk our way. I mean, the less said about the Europa game, the better, really. Fucking shit show.
I could just read the lineups really, really slowly.
Nah, don't do that. Do not do that.
Oh, Stevie's there.
We'll get something. We'll get a good lot out of the Burnley game, I think.
I wanted to talk later on about this selective editing on Match of the Day.
Yeah.
Because it's actually getting to a point where it's becoming almost like censorship, where it's almost like
BBC. They don't want to be controversial, do they?
Don't think it's that. I think they've got agendas and they want to stick to them. And that agenda is that, Arsenal this, the rest of that. If you think, I've got two tweets, folks. Somebody's pointed out that we had 16 shots, but they didn't show hardly, only showed 2 or 3 of them, but they showed all of Burnley's.
Yeah.
So basically, the way they've edited is to make out that Burnley were all over us all the time, that we were given no credit for our defending or for the slick passing play or attacking them, or they never showed the Bellerin penalty incident, and then they make out at the end, it was a soft penalty,
which was actually, and I thought the Bellerin one was more of a penalty than what the Ramsey one was.
Absolutely, and the other thing is then you've got Sean Douche sitting there making out
of a lifetime. That is
sitting there making out he's a fucking victim. We're a victim. We never get them penalties. He said, hold on a minute. You've got every fucking referee's decision, apart from one booking where Brady, who should have been sent off later. Every decision bar that one. They just pushed the envelope too far on Lee Mason.
But I like his other quote was the best one, wasn't it? Well, it was a penalty, but was it you wouldn't have not expected them to get it here? Hang on a minute. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
You there, Stevie?
Yes. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we all?
See, perfect sound quality, Danny.
Oh, he's a bloody Twitch legend, isn't he? Just don't go into Twitch mode and dude, God, hey, like an 80s DJ.
No, like a surfer.
It needs to be more muffled, doesn't it? If I'm being a DJ, one of those wedding DJs. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be playing some great music for you today. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to take some requests. We're going to do the S Club 7 coming up for you now. Something like that.
How are you, Stevie? Anyway, long time no speak. Wow, in person, I mean.
Oh, in person, yeah. I'm good. I've just been working really, really hard the last few weeks, so pretty pooped.
I was talking to him last week on his Twitch channel. We were playing Destiny 2.
Oh yeah. You popped in. It was good to chat.
I was there for about an hour.
What he is, Stevie, is he's a lurker. He'll come in unexpected.
Well, I'd you in one window and chatbait in the other.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You got your Christmas tree up yet, Gimli?
No, I don't have one.
Son of a bitch.
I don't have one. I don't want one. I don't need one.
Hey, I like Christmas. It's my favourite time of year.
Not a massive fan of Christmas. Even though my birthday's in like a week and a half, I just don't like this time of year. It's not my favourite.
No, mine's on the 17th of December, Stevie. It's fucking shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So even though my birthday's there and it's Christmas, a lot of the time when you grow up, you probably got it as well, where people go, "Oh, we got you a joint present." What? No, we're not having none of this. What is all this about?
It was like as a kid, it was all right because the other side of the coin to that would be you get bored of one lot of shit before the next lot of shit came along.
Yeah,
and then you had to deal with both lots of shit for the rest of the year, rather than having summer like in the middle of the year and then Christmas. So you only got 6 months with each lots of shit.
Yeah,
you just
got broken up nicely, up evenly.
Whereas, you get a pair of trainers, you got halfway through the year and they're fucked. You think Christmas time, terrible.
Yeah,
got to make these last a year. Like any gift, like socks or shoes or anything. Make these last a year.
Oh God.
But it works out well having a birthday in December for the Arsenal calendar. Pretty much always guaranteed an Arsenal calendar every year.
Oh right, yeah, no, sure. That works out.
You must know it, Stevie.
Positives.
2018 calendar is probably out about now or in the running weeks up to Christmas. So the
pretty much.
Always for the birthday or Christmas, Arsenal calendar nailed on.
Hell yeah.
I've told them no, don't buy me a single Arsenal football-related shit. Stop it.
All right.
It's shit, most of it. If I want it, I've already got it.
I thought it was just a sign, though, because every time that I got it, it was either actually it's both at the same time, like a bottle of Morgan spiced rum and the Arsenal calendar, so you can just sit there and go, "It'll be fucking sold in the summer."
Got to get a marker pen, put a big X through him. Right, he's not anymore.
If Alexis Sanchez is on the 2018 one, you go, "Well, he'll be fucking gone by June." Oh!
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Not doing yourself any favours.
What?
Just in general.
I can confirm that Arsenal do already have their calendar out, and on the front of it is Alexis Sanchez, Olivier Giroud, and Mesut Ozil. So, like by June time, you're gonna be well fucked off with that, aren't you?
Unless they've put them as January, February, March.
Yeah, no, that'd be all right. I would actually laugh and be interested in seeing where Ozil and Sanchez fitted in that calendar, because if it's anywhere past June, they're having a laugh.
No, both on the January page, flicking V's with "fuck you very much."
Yeah, it's got some more questions. Just told people it's either you pull your fingers out and give us questions, or it's a 15-minute show.
I did ask for questions.
Yeah, I know. I retweeted that. That's where I got the first 12 from.
Sanchez is January, we can confirm.
Oh.
Ozil's October, so we could be in for some very tricky times there.
Whoops.
Who is?
Honestly, who approves these things?
Marketing department who don't give a fuck. They have no grasp of reality.
Well, how fucked off are you going to be when you get to October and see Mesut Ozil standing back at you for a month and you realise he fucked us off for Man United?